Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Today I'll start explaining section 4 in business studies. I'll explain chapter 17. Chapter 17 is a long chapter and an important chapter in section 4 and in business. It talks about production of goods and services. Okay, so we'll talk here about the meaning of production, and we'll differentiate mainly between production and productivity. We'll talk a lot about efficiency and about an important concept called lean production. And then we'll talk about types of production, and we'll differentiate between them. And the last point talks about the technology and how it affects production methods. First, let's just understand the meaning of production. It's just a process of converting inputs into outputs. Usually, as I know that I should use resources in order to produce an output, and these resources will be land, labor, and capital. If you remember, these are called factors of production. And of course, these inputs will be used to produce an output like shoes and cell phones, for example. So these resources, of course, are managed by a department in the business called operations department. And this department is responsible for managing the business resources. Of course, they have to use all the business resources in an effective way. They are responsible for producing the output of the business, meeting the demand of customers, and of course, this all should be done by meeting the quality standards as the customers usually expect them. So this is the meaning of production. There is a difference between production and productivity, and usually some students just mix the two words. Production, as I said, it's just changing input into output. So here we have somehow number of units produced. However, productivity is the measure of efficiency. You'll see this word a lot in this chapter. Talking about efficiency is important. Efficiency of the input used in the production process is important, and that's what we call productivity. So when I talk about productivity, I'm talking about the measuring of efficiency of inputs used in the production. We have different types of productivity. In this book, they concentrated on labor productivity. How would I know that my labors are productive or they are efficient? I simply see what is the total output they produced, and of course I divide the total output by the number of the workers. So the labor productivity will increase if they produce more output. So the rule is simple. Here I'm measuring the efficiency of workers. If the workers are efficient, that means they will produce more output. And of course, many factors that will lead to increase in productivity, which is important for the business. So differentiate between the two words because they are not the same. The word efficiency here, as a hint, it's when you produce more in less time and cost. When I say the student is efficient today, I mean he studied a lot of chapters in less time. He did a good job. When I say the workers are productive, also the same. So it's important to measure the workers' productivity in the business. Now, the benefits. It's very important here also to understand that the business increase in productivity, or the increase in productivity, means a reduction in average cost. And there is a huge link between the two. Think about it. When you talk about increase in productivity, you're talking about more output produced, you're talking about more sales, you're talking about workers spending their time, taking their wages and salaries, and they are producing more. So of course, when we measure it or link it to the cost, you'll see that the cost, or the average cost that we call, will of course reduce. So fewer workers may be needed, of course, leading to lower wage cost, and workers that we have, we can simply pay them now more, as of course the costs are reducing, and we can improve their motivation. Increasing productivity should happen in every business and can be done by several ways. As we have a rule which is output over number of employees, so now we can tell that either increasing output with the same number of workers will increase the productivity, or keeping the output at the same level but use fewer workers. So now you ask yourself, okay, so how would I increase the productivity of workers then? How can I do this? I simply do this by improving their skills. I can train them. I can improve the motivation of my workers. And this is, of course, a big topic, how to motivate workers. Already we studied in chapter 8. More automation and better technology, and this is what makes the output increase with a better quality, and of course improve the management decisions. If you think about these, they will have definitely an effect on the productivity of the business, and this is how productivity usually of course increase. So here we are talking about the benefits of productivity, of course, and how to increase it. Always remember that improving productivity will add to the business cost. So remember, increasing productivity, or we are training workers, we are improving their skills, we are motivating them, and we are buying machines. Of course, this will help in increasing productivity, but this is not for free. Of course, there will be money to buy machinery, there will be money needed to make training programs. So what should I do? I should make a balance. If the benefit that I'm getting is more than the cost, then this is the balance that I want. This is the benefit that I want. So the business will improve productivity to reduce unit cost. So an increase in output must be greater than the increase in cost. If you're spending money on machines and the training programs and you're getting benefit and increase in output, that means, of course, more than increasing the cost, that means you are increasing productivity and you're getting the benefit. Otherwise, it's not useful to just spend money on buying machines or training workers if their productivity is not increasing. So high productivity simply should mean a fall in unit cost. Remember this relation, because productive workers will help the business to reduce the unit cost. Okay, why businesses hold inventories? This topic, I'll tell you about the questions usually they ask in the exam. Let's talk about the inventories and the meaning. So inventory means the stock of raw materials and work in progress and finished goods held by the business. So we have different goods, so semi-finished goods, finished goods, and the raw materials. If you look at this stock control chart, just understand it, that the management should be able to make a control over its inventory, right? So the inventory that you have should be controlled. When I say buffer inventory, it's the inventory that you held to deal with any uncertainty. If you look at this graph now, you notice that the buffer is the inventory that is always there. Is always there for what? In case the demand by customers, for example, is high, suddenly high, or the delivery of supplies is, let's say, late, we can simply use the buffer stock. Of course, we have the reorder level and we have the maximum level. So notice there should be a management. You cannot wait until you run out of stock to order the stock. There is a point where you have to just order, and you have to make sure that the goods will arrive, and until they arrive you should have stock available to sell, of course, and so on and so forth. In the exam, I saw questions asking about inventories, asking about two types of questions: why some businesses hold inventories, and what happens if the business run out of inventory. Two questions are there in past papers. Hopefully when I start solving past papers, I'll solve these with you, but these are the questions type that I saw related to this topic. Okay, so this is why the business hold inventories. So here, as I said, holding inventories is needed for production. If there is no goods in the stock, the customer orders cannot be met, so of course you will lose sales. And usually when the business buys in large quantities, this large inventory will help the business to benefit from economies of scale. And here, just a simple reminder that economies of scale are the factors that the business benefit from. When their scale of operation is big, their costs will reduce. Now, another topic which is important in chapter 17, which is called lean production. First, let's explain the meaning. Lean production simply means the production of goods and services with the minimum waste of resources. This is the meaning of lean production. So simply this concept or lean production aims to lower the cost of production by reducing the waste to the minimum. So here we are talking again about efficiency. So lean production has many techniques, and the concept simply aims to reduce the waste of resources and being efficient. So when we talk about waste, details are in the book, of course, but here, just to mention them, we have many waste in the business. We have a waste that comes from high inventory. We have a waste if we have low resources. If we overproduce, sometimes there is a waste. Production defects, mistakes in the goods, and the things that we throw also, they are considered a waste. So here the waste increase, and of course the business cost will increase, and it will reduce the profit. So see, the relation is simple. So here you have waste, and this waste will increase your cost, and of course will reduce your profit. So let's repeat this concept. Lean production, they are a group of techniques. They aim, and their target is to produce goods and services with minimum waste of resources. So here we are talking about lowering the cost of production by reducing the waste, so the business is being efficient. Why? Because we have different types of waste, and main sources of waste are these that I mentioned. So here there is a relation between the waste increase and of course the cost increase and the reduction in profit, and it's clear when you have a reduction in increase in cost, you'll have a reduction in your profits, of course. Now, what are the benefits of lean production? So it's clear now, the lean production, it's clear that it has this target. As I said, reduction of waste and decreasing the cost. So benefits of lean production will have less storage of raw materials and components. The production will be quicker. There is no need to repair defects or provide replacements. Our equipments will be better used. Because also this is a waste if you have an equipment and you don't use it to the maximum. Cutting out the process will speed up production, less money tied into inventories, and this is also an important, like the business won't have a lot of money which is tied into inventories, so we don't have a very big amount of inventory or money spent on inventories, and of course health and safety will be improved. So all these are benefits of lean production techniques. So now let's talk about these techniques and link them to the benefits. So lean production has several techniques. In your book here you have they mentioned 3, but in the exam I saw questions about 2 of them, and not a lot of questions talking about them, but I have to understand each one. So the first one is called just-in-time inventory control. Just-in-time is simple. It simply explains itself. Like just-in-time production, it's when the business holds no inventory at all. So simply, I receive the raw materials from my supplier when I need them. I make the goods, I manufacture them, and then I sell them directly to customers. So here, I'm not holding any inventory. I'm just having a good relationship with my suppliers, and because I have a reliable relationship with my suppliers, the goods or the materials should arrive on time, and the materials will be used in production, and after the production, of course, there will be the sales to customers. So here raw materials should be delivered on time and of required quantity and quality, and the workers and machines should be flexible, so you move from one product to another. If you notice that this lean production technique will definitely minimize the waste and reduce your costs, since there is no inventory to be held, so you are saving storage costs. You are not paying for storage costs. You are not paying for workers who should handle the inventory, for example. This is a technique which is somehow used by businesses. We have the Kaizen method. It's a Japanese word which stands for continuous improvement. This method also is famous all over the world, not only in Japan, of course. So here the workers will just give their suggestions on how to improve the quality, because Kaizen method believes that workers simply know better than their managers, because they do this every day. So the manager won't know the details that the workers probably will know. And their suggestions, of course, will be taken into consideration, and it might lead to a big improvement in the efficiency. Kaizen also talks about the organization, or talks about the organizing the workplace, how equipment should be organized. This affects a lot the time needed to do a job. So Kaizen also explains this in details. There is the third one, as I said, it's called cell production. It's not that important, but it's mentioned in your book. It's just about having group of workers, and each group working on production, let's say, phase. They just mentioned it in your book, but it's not important in your exam. Now, main point to explain the main methods of production. Most of the questions in past papers are about these. In production, we have different types. So you might see many businesses producing, but they are not the same. First, we have something called the job production. Job production is when a single product is made at a time. So here there is a production of a single product or unique product. For example, when I see a dress designer, when I see, for example, let's say someone who makes the suits, okay, all these productions are called job productions. Why? Because the product that is made specifically, or it's unique for someone. So now when I go, for example, to design a dress for me, so of course this dress will be designed only for me based on my needs, right? So the guy will design it for me. That's why his type of production is called job production. So it's suitable for personal services. You just meet the requirements of customers. Workers have a lot of varied jobs here. Every time they have a new task to do, and this allows you to charge a higher price. But of course, you still need the skilled laborers, and these are expensive, and you cannot use machines here because simply this relies on the skills of people, right? And the production takes a long time, and it's expensive, as sometimes materials cost a lot of money. And of course, you will not benefit from economies of scale because you won't buy in large quantities. Your materials will not be bought in large quantities as any other type of production. The second one is called batch production. Batch production, also a production type. It's a production of goods in batches, or the main definition, it's a production of goods in small quantities. So you might see a good example is bakery. In bakery, you go there, you just see batches of groups of goods. Several types of goods are produced by this bakery. So you see a quantity of one product is made, then a quantity of another product is produced, and so on. So here, when we talk about batch production, so customers have some variety and the choice. Workers, somehow they have a variety in their jobs, somehow, of course. Production may not be affected if machines break down, because simply if I stop making A product, I can simply do B product. It's a flexible way. I can change from one product to another, but it's a repetitive work. So the motivation here will be less, of course, not like the job production. Talking about variety again. And the goods have to be stored until they are sold. So you are paying for storage, of course, and you have a storage cost here. The third one, which is flow production. The flow production here, it's the production of very large quantities. Imagine the Pepsi factory. Very large quantities, identical goods, and continuous moving process. The factories won't stop. 24/7 they just produce. Why? Because they sell to a mass market, and their production should be a mass production because they have a very high demand. So they have a large output. The items usually they are identical. You are meeting the high customer demand or consumer demand. Automation will be high. Machines, robots, equipments are used, and of course inventories of raw materials are used. The benefits, large number of goods produced. The cost will be low simply because you benefit from economies of scale. Capital intensive methods are used, so you have a lower labor cost and more efficiency as you use equipments. And remember, using machines and equipment was one of the ways to improve the productivity. Right? Unskilled people are needed as tasks are repetitive. Benefits from economies of scale, as we said, lower average cost means lower prices, so you enjoy higher sales. The automation will help in the quality, you can produce the goods quickly, and so on. However, we have many disadvantages of flow production. So businesses usually that invest in flow production techniques, they pay very large amounts of investments. It's really boring and repetitive because it's the same thing that usually workers do every day, so you see them less satisfied and motivated. And if there is any breakdown in the machines, the production or the process, the whole process will stop. And we need very big places, and we need to pay a big amount of money, of course, to store the goods. So we have somehow high storage cost of raw materials. So now I have three methods of production. Very important to distinguish between the three, because this is how they ask in the exam, to just compare and ask you why this business, what are the benefits of moving to this way of production, what are the drawbacks. So I have to just compare them. Now, how businesses choose the method of production? Of course, it depends on many things. So it depends on your market size, on your business size, of course, on the demand, if it's high demand, low demand, on the amounts they are likely to sell. So of course, it depends on many things to choose which method of production the business will use. The last point in this long chapter is technology and how the technology changed the production methods. Nowadays, we all know that technology is important in the production. I just explained some points related to how technology has changed production methods. So there is something called CAD. Nowadays, we know we have a lot of computer-aided designs. I mean, we have a lot of softwares that can design the product. These softwares, of course, they can help the business to test the product without making a prototype. So here we are saving money on building prototypes. 3D printers are now really famous because they help you to produce finished products. So this is what we call CAD. There is something called CAM, computer aided manufacturing. So once you design the product, of course, and once you finish testing it, you will produce it. So when I say CAM, I'm talking about computer aided manufacturing, where the computers usually control the machines and equipments. And of course, because of technology, this is now widely used and done by many businesses. It's expensive. Yes, I need less labors, but it's really expensive to have this system where computers control equipments. The CIM, or Computer Integrated Manufacturing, it's the integration between the two, where I have robots, I have machines controlled by equipment. So you see a business like, let's say, BMW, they design their cars, they test them, and they produce them, of course, using robots and using computers. And of course, their main method of production is flow production, but they rely on technology. They heavily rely on technology. Okay, advantages and disadvantages. It's clear that the advantage will be on both consumers and businesses, and of course disadvantages. If it comes to businesses, there will be a less cost in designing the products. Softwares will do the job. Productivity will increase, and it's clear, saving money, more output, and of course reduction in the cost of the production and improve the quality. When computers do the job, usually mistakes, let's say, are zero, or somehow low percentage, low risk of mistakes. However, the business will pay a lot of money, and here we have a huge capital cost. It's very expensive. We have to stay always up to date in order to stay competitive. Training workers on using the technology also costs a lot of money. But still, as I said, you have to make this balance. If your costs are increasing more than the benefit, then it's useless to just pay money on technology. For the consumers, for us, better quality will be there and lower prices, because businesses enjoy lower cost, so they will pass this to us as lower prices, and we have variety of products. But as we know that if the products we use are based on technology, then the products become out of date quickly, and of course they are expensive to repair, as anything we use nowadays. Okay, on workers, the advantage also is clear that many repetitive tasks, or maybe boring tasks, or maybe dangerous tasks are done by the machines. Using technology will help workers in doing many jobs. They will be more trained. Of course, when the workers are well trained and know the technology, they will have more job security and more employment opportunities. But still, we all know that technology has somehow a negative impact, where some workers are made redundant because they don't fit anymore, or they are not used because a machine replaced them. And of course, their work might be less interesting if the machine is going to do everything. But still, we have advantages to workers, and of course we have disadvantages. Okay, that's all for chapter 17. Chapter 17 is a really long chapter in section 4. For chapter 18, 19, and 20, they are not long at all. But this chapter is just very important. It has a lot of details. So I always suggest that you read the book, link things together, make sure you study all the production methods together, and make sure to know the meanings. And of course, solving past papers will help a lot in doing this, or doing a practice on this chapter. It's a really important chapter. So if you have any questions or you didn't understand any point, just comment, and of course I'll give you my answers and send you more clarifications. Okay, thank you for listening, and see you in chapter 18.